of us in the room know that the world ocean is a place full of diversity of organisms and ecosystems. And as we discussed often yesterday, it's very hard to see below the surface, particularly since most of the world's ocean is, the average depth of the world ocean is about 4,000 meters. And so very few people get to see that part of the world, and yet it's the greatest habitat on Earth. There's so many threats to health in the ocean, from oil spills to pollution to the discharge of anthropogenic carbon dioxide leading to acidification of the ocean. But I'd like to really focus on the positive. What makes people care about the ocean? And what I've found over time is images certainly reach people, well, particularly images of animals, even though you and I love a good geologic feature. Their animals seem to be the best way to reach people. So it can be beautiful ocean images. Marine mammals, for some reason, have a lot of appeal to people. The idea of this vast, unknown deep sea, weird animals and corals. And you can see the barrel eye fish that I talked about a little bit yesterday here on the upper left. Those green lobes are its eyes pointing upwards. And then the two little dots that you see that look like eyes are actually nostrils. All of us in the room know that so when the eyes are looking up, as I said yesterday, full of the eyes can't organisms and ecosystems. It's only when, and as we discussed often yesterday, it's very hard to see below the surface, particularly since most of the world's ocean is, the average depth of the world's ocean is about 4,000 meters. And so very few people get to see that part of the world, and yet it's the greatest habitat on Earth. There's so many threats to health in the ocean, from oil spills to pollution to the discharge of anthropogenic carbon dioxide is leading to acidification of the ocean. But I'd like to really focus on the positive. What makes people care about the ocean? And what I've found over time is images certainly reach people, well, particularly images of animals, even though you and I love a good geologic feature. Their animals seem to be the best way to reach people. So it can be beautiful ocean images. Marine mammals, for some reason, have a lot of appeal to people. So one example the idea of this vast, unknown technology, weird animals and corals. And you can see the barrel eye fish that I talked about a little bit yesterday here on the upper left. Those green lobes are its eyes pointing upwards. And then the two little dots that you see that look like eyes are actually its nostrils. And then it's got that little pointy mouth. So when the eyes are looking up, as I said yesterday, the eyes can't see what the mouth is doing. And it's only when it spots prey and then turns its whole body up that the eyes rotate to point towards where the mouth is. It'd be amazing. So we don't have marine mammals that we study at MBARI, nor does the Monterey Bay Aquarium. If we look here on the center of California, the central coast of California, it is Monterey Bay. The system is near shore. And you can see here on the peninsula at the south end of Monterey Bay is the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And here at the head of this deep submarine canyon is Elkhorn Slough and the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research, which we can, so we're about 30 miles inland of the aquarium. Sister institutions that work together to promote marine education for K-12 teachers and the general public. But at the Research Institute itself, our main focus is development of new technology to answer important ocean science questions. So one example of one of the technologies that is being developed there is this environmental sample processor, which is a genomics lab in a can. And we put the whole can in the water, you can see the picture on the upper left of divers actually putting the original ESP in our test tank to see if it would work. Currently, we have a number of these, Generation 1, Generation 2, and now we're working on Generation 3, which will be a much smaller version. Essentially, it can draw in a sample of water, filter out the microorganisms, do an assay where it adds chemical reagents to the cells, and then after the assay takes place, take a picture of the results of the assay, and then transmit that back by radar, by telephone if the system is near shore, or by satellite if it's farther off. Which is a twin-hull small wet area. It's a very. We also are developing autonomous underwater vehicles. So these are torpedo-shaped vehicles, which we can pre-program and put in the water, and they will go and into the high seas, do their whatever the software code has been written, and then bring back information. We're also developing a long-range AUV, and this smaller AUV has it's more streamlined. It has more battery power and can handle smaller instruments. But this would be capable of going from Monterey Bay to Hawaii and doing sampling all the way along the track, which is pretty amazing. One of our autonomous vehicles has a multi-beam system inside, so it can take acoustic images of the seafloor and come back with very high resolution bathymetry maps of the seafloor, the highest resolution maps that are currently being made. Another of our AUVs is being outfitted to take images, high-resolution images, so that we can overlap what is on the seafloor, the geology and the biology, on those bathymetry maps, and get a high-resolution bathymetric map and be able to see changes in time in a particular place. They go through. We also have multiple ships. We have 2 ships and submersibles, including the remotely operated vehicle. You can see our ship, the Western Flyer, which is a twin-hull small wet area. It's a very buoyant twin-hull ship, very, very stable, so that when we even the ship to Hawaii from Monterey Bay, and even in storms when we were underway and going into the high seas, you could still work with the microscope and it's so stable a platform, really great. Exactly what has been. And the whole center of the Western Flyer is this moon pool, which we can open up and then launch the remotely operated vehicle right down through the middle of the ship. The ROVs are tethered to the ship, so they're not autonomous. But the ROVs have high-resolution and HD cameras on them, as well as still cameras, so we can take really amazing images. And here you can see a low-resolution image of some of the videos. So this is the vampire squid, vampire recusas. And we have ended up with about 19,000 hours of high-resolution video of Monterey Bay, Hawaii, and Mexico, and Canada. So how do we keep track of all these animals and geologic features? Well, we have video technicians. We have technicians that are trained in biology, geology, and the technology, and they can annotate and keep track of what's seen on all the video, and they go through all the video from the ROVs in real time. All kinds of descriptions. 19,000 hours of video. We track about 4,300 concepts, so those are, they would include phyla, families, genus, species, as well as various geologic features, and even equipment that we put on the seafloor. And right now our database has about 4 million observations, and they're in a big database that you can go in and query and see exactly what has been seen in any particular spot that we have taken. Actually asked questions about when did we see. We developed in-house a software program, the video annotation and reference system, things like that, or bars. And in fact, and these data, you can see at the top, when the Western Flyer is out in Monterey Bay, And the remotely operated vehicle on the upper right is the cameras are taking pictures of this Grymphotuthis. The Grymphotuthis is then, the image is transmitted along with data such as lat long, depth, temperature, salinity, up to the ship where it's recorded. And you can annotate what you're seeing on the ship, or you can just talk on the ship and it will record whatever people in the control room are saying. And then it'll come back to the video library on land, where the three-phase system includes an annotation interface, which is the software that lets you describe what you're seeing, not only what animal, but also what color it is, whether it's what its gender is, whether it's gravid, all kinds of descriptives, plus you can add your own descriptives. We have a knowledge base, which is essentially an encyclopedia of everything we've seen in the areas that we study. And it's a hierarchical list. So if you don't know what species it is, you can take it up to genus. If you don't know the genus, you can go up. If you don't know anything, you can just put with our question mark, and people will come back and deal with that. And then finally, we have a query interface, which is the way that you can get into the database and actually ask questions about when did we see Grymphotuthis, or at what depth do we see it in October, things like that. And in fact, all of these data and the software are available on the web. We set aside the last 2 years of data for the scientists to follow up and do their research and publish the results. But then we just keep rolling over additional data to the database. And that's a really good source. Everything read giving students the opportunity to go in and do their own research. So we had graduate students and high school students use the database to try to form queries about what might be happening in a certain area at a certain time of year, or at a certain teachers in classrooms. We also have an exhibit at the Monterey Bay Aquarium about MRE, so that students, young people can go in and try their hand at being a biologist or a geologist or an engineer. And for some reason, more kids when they're out at sea, engineers, vacations, they give it all to somebody else. We also, because we have so much video, and the aquarium is our sister institution, we provide videos for their other exhibits, and we contribute to books and information and lectures. Anything we can do to help the Monterey Bay Aquarium, we contribute. With our very talented staff in the video lab, they came up with the idea of starting to produce videos. And there are 5 people that work in the video lab, and they're very creative and well-trained. So they are now producing about once a month a new video and putting it on YouTube. So there's a YouTube channel, which is MBARI channel. You can do various a Google query of MBARI channel YouTube and get here and see what's come up new. Sometimes they're related to scientific publications, so we can actually illustrate what the paper is describing. And sometimes it's just some really beautiful video, like the Valentine's Day video that was everything red that we've seen in the deep sea. Or the Halloween video of what are the scariest big teeth in the deep sea. Really creative music and a wonderful way to access if teachers in classrooms actually can make use of
Use the Google search button in the upper right.
And we're also using social media, Facebook, Twitter, a variety of different people in my group have selected the social media that they want to be responsible for. And if they're out at sea or go on vacation, they give it off to somebody else. The team really works well to cover all the bases and contribute to education as well as the research institutes. So I'm happy to answer your questions. There's also one of the buttons on the left-hand side is for expeditions, so you can follow expeditions and send in questions for the seminars that are available. On occasion, we will do webinars with classes. And once again, we try to spread out the responsibility. So if it's a scientist or a research technician or someone in my group that wants to sponsor something like that, then we will set them up and give them you know, the video conferencing capability, video, what they need for that.
So is there a list that you can sign it and get all the announcements from Barry?
If you give me your, there isn't one right now, but we can provide that. So if you look, for example, at our website, which is www.embari.org, so you can go in there, do /bars, and then use the Google search button in the upper right to look for interns. The internships are available for undergraduates, graduate students, or teachers, and it's now international. It started out regional, but as the word spread, we now get years when we'll have 4 people coming from India or 3 from France. It's very international. It's really wonderful to see the change in language over the years. And there's also wouldn't be funded by one of the so for example that buttons on the left-hand side is for expeditions, so you can follow expeditions and send in questions for the seminars that are available. NASA, because NASA sees that as an option for sending to Europa to see if there's any life
2 questions.
under
the
ice of Europa.
You may have answered
So
this
our
yesterday.
funding, 80% of it comes from
Aquarium.
David Lucille Packard
Through
Foundation.
that.
So that's
Is that
about
all that's a separate? And the other question
expenses,
was,
and then if we need
there is so
additional
much
funds
knowledge
for
that
capital
you're
expenses
gathering there, and I was just
or a new
wondering
building or a
how
new
you
ship, we can go
actually
back.
plan your
But we have to
research.
justify
And
everything.
also,
So
are there
they
any questions that you are asking
definitely,
themselves
they
before
don't
the
influence the
information
research
changing the
that
way
we
you're
do,
actually doing?
except for, you know, now we look at
What
their
aren't you?
ocean plan and see, how can we make sure we're doing things that have, thank you, great question. So I did mention yesterday that our funding is, and our mission, our board of directors, all are separate from the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So David and Lucille Packard paid for the building of the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and then they expected it to be self-sustaining. So the people that buy tickets at the door pay for the fish food and the food for the people that work there. 6 of us sit down, and it's a fabulous place. Separately, David Packard established Embari and hoped that we would work together, but because research funds are so tenuous, he didn't want us to rely on anybody else's agenda. He wanted us to take risks here to do long-term projects that wouldn't be funded by the National Science Foundation. So, for example, that environmental sample processor, that's been a 15-year project so far. But now it's gotten additional funding, for example, from NSF, from NASA, because NASA sees that as an option for sending to Europa to see if there's any life under the ice of Europa. So our funding, 80% of it comes from the David Lucille Packard Foundation. So that's about $42 million a year for expenses, and then if we need additional funds for capital expenses for a new building or a new ship, we can go back. But we have to justify everything. So they definitely, they don't influence the research that we do, except for, you know, now we look at their ocean plan and see how can we make sure we're doing things that have, that are important science questions and that address human impacts. So for the most part, we let anyone in-house propose a project for the following year. We do that during the summer. We tend to get 70 to 80 projects generated. Of those, the management team, of which I'm one, 6 of us sit down and read all these proposals, carry around a book that thick for a month, and then we sit down and discuss each one, the merits. What we want to do is encourage and yet risky, exciting projects that include engineers and scientists who can self-select work with and promote those. But we also want to keep everybody working, and we want to make best use of our 2 shift times and our vehicles. So it's a delicate balancing act to try to provide direction for, we're trying to do things that are important and keep everybody working, but also allow enough leeway that people can take a year to do a feasibility study to see if that might be something good for the following year. That risks our in terms of conservation. We really work closely with the Monterey Bay Aquarium because they have and one of my staff goes to the aquarium every week to take turns to talk to the public. And they distribute seafood watch cards, and they have a whole list of conservation situations. So I might go to the aquarium and talk about what kinds of trash that we see. And okay, here's a food that's 5,000. I mean, 5,000. The more serious things are like batteries off. Very interesting question about I think it's about are we looking at human impacts in the ocean and how can we influence policy? It's pretty interesting because that's what most of our goal, and yet the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, the kind of nonprofit that we are not allowed to lobby or to give advice on how people make votes. And so that puts us in a position where if a senator or the president asks us we have to go to Washington and to talk to the Senate about climate change, we need to get an invitation from the committee chair there. We can't just connect with the senator and go give advice, nor can we advise any of you how to vote, so whether you should tell your policymakers, that risks our nonprofits. And I think in terms of conservation, we really work closely with the Monterey Bay Aquarium because they have 10 million visitors a year. And one of my staff goes to the aquarium every week. We take turns to talk to the public, and they distribute seafood watch cards, and they have a whole list of conservation relatively small. So I might go to the aquarium and talk about what kinds of trash have we seen on sea page in Monterey Bay. And okay, here's the food people that are 5,000 ship. At 500 pilots, you didn't lose your shoe running. It's a whole range of people. The more serious things are like batteries off of fishing boats, and so we have that kind of impact. So we're now doing a study that should come out early next year on the kinds of marine debris that we've seen on the seafloor. But most of our research is more aimed at technology development towards the kinds of questions that might impact towards climate change, things like that.
Okay. Una pregunta más.
Thank you. The proposals that you mentioned, 70 to 80 projects proposed per year. Do you accept proposal from offices? If I get a proposal for each?
Good question. So the 70 proposals per year are internally generated. And I think our purpose is to not allow external agendas to divert us from what we should be doing. But that said, we look out and we have adjuncts that may be at various institutions. And an adjunct is selected based on, is this a person that we would want to have on staff if we could afford it? We're a relatively small organization. We're 220 people, and that includes the gal that writes the paychecks. The people that are out on the ship, the ROV pilots that keep the computers running. It's a whole range of people, and so there are very few principal investigator scientists. And so we have selected people that are good collaborators who would come, and they're allowed to apply, to submit proposals for unique MBARI assets, meaning not money, but ship time, engineering time, things like that. Thank you.
Thank you.